As this, when you build a product, who the product is built for is not a decision that your most junior hire gets to make. That's a strategic decision right from the top. So list building and who you target is not the SDR's decision. You need to have a strategy around who your ideal client profile is. Often, founders don't. They're like, everyone can use this product. And you're like, well, that's useless.
Hello. Welcome again to another episode of the Sales Spotlight Show, the show where you get to overcome your biggest cold email and outbound sales challenges by hearing the insights from the top experts in the space. I'm Jay, and I'm your host for today. And here's the deal. Today, there are so many great sales tools out there for every aspect of the process, from prospecting to finding and verifying emails to warming up your inboxes, automating workflows, you name it. But ultimately, unless you have the right people managing these tools, they are completely meaningless. And that's what we're going to be talking about today: how to build a high performing outbound sales team. And we have a super special guest who's pretty well equipped to talk about it. Our guest today has close to 20 years of experience. He's led marketing teams. He's led sales teams, managing offices, 6 different offices. He's served as GTM and outbound advisor for a number of startups, and he's been instrumental in the growth of various sales communities. And he started multiple businesses, including his present one, Pointer. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the one, the only, Ricky Pearl. Ricky, how are we doing?
Just man, I think you built me up a little bit too much there.
Yeah.
Like I can only disappoint from here.
Now, to just so that I could even it out, I kind of goofed up in the speaking. So that's a way of balancing it out if you think it was too much. But Ricky, thank you so much
Fair
for
enough.
joining us. I know you're a super busy man. You have a packed schedule. Really appreciate the time you're taking to speak with us today. And
Of course. I'm only too happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
thank you so much. So, Ricky, for those who don't know, if they're in the sales community, they're probably living under a rock if they don't know you. But nevertheless, could you give us a bit of background about what you've done and what you're up to presently?
Sure. So Ricky Pearl, originating from South Africa, moved to Australia just over a decade ago. And I just had I would think a pretty typical meandering career through business. South Africa business was pretty easy. It was a very different environment.
Hmm.
And I was able to start a business whilst I was at university, whilst I also had a full-time job and doing the full-time university degree. And that business did relatively well. It couldn't be imported to Australia, though. It fell under something called the Therapeutic Goods Administration, which was something I was not ready to deal with at the time. So moved here, got involved in some growth opportunities for businesses here in Melbourne. Got involved in a not-for-profit organization for 5 years. That was really great. And eventually, decided to find my feet and start the business I was always meant to start, which is Pointer Strategy. And this is where we're at today.
Great. And could you tell us a little bit more about Pointer Strategy and what problem you're solving, Ricky?
Sure. So fundamentally, there's a lot of really good businesses out there, and they have built a product or a service to support people who have a problem. And this product or service solves that problem. But they have this barrier, which is the people who have the problem don't know that this solution exists. We help bridge that gap by introducing companies that have developed novel solutions to people who have the problem that solution solves. And that's really all we do. What that looks like in reality, it's a lot of outbound. Cold calling, cold emailing, LinkedIn outreach, whatever the channel is to start a conversation about the problem and introduce a solution.
Got it. So outbound is your bread and butter, Ricky, and as well as building teams. So today's topic is all about building a high performing outbound sales team. Before we dive right into the topic, to give a little bit of context, Ricky,
Yeah.
do you think there are certain businesses better suited for outbound and those which may not should not necessarily look at it as their primary channel?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So a few things. You know, in general, I'm a strong believer that outbound is good for a season.
Hmm.
Eventually, we all want our phones ringing off the hook,
Hmm.
and we all want referrals coming in from happy clients and from partners.
Hmm.
So your long-term strategy should be around more sustainable growth.
Got it.
However, we all know search engine optimization, referrals from happy clients takes a lot of time. You've got to first get your clients for them to then be happy, for them to refer people. So you've got these 2-year strategies.
Hmm.
And up until those strategies can kick in, you need something to jumpstart the engine.
Hmm.
Outbound's perfect for that.
Hmm.
However, it is not necessarily, and it can be, but it's not always the most efficient form of revenue generation. It's certainly a very practical and active one that you can control,
Hmm.
but not necessarily the most economical or going to give you the lowest customer acquisition cost.
Okay.
So that's a big one.
Hmm.
Working out this customer acquisition cost and what you can afford. People want to do outbound calling, for example, and they've got an average customer value or average contract value of $1,000.
Hmm.
It's unlikely,
Hmm.
highly unlikely that you're going to get a positive return on investment
Hmm.
by paying professional salespeople,
Hmm.
particularly if it's in a first world country like, say, in America
Hmm.
or in Australia where salaries are high. You'd need to close 15, 20 new deals a month from that one individual, let alone the account executives on the team and the rest of your operation
Hmm.
for it to be economic.
Hmm.
So in general, average contract values of over $10,000 to $15,000
Hmm.
is where having a professional outbound team starts looking good.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great.
There obviously are a whole lot of caveats to that too.
Absolutely. But that's a great response. One, the ACV, obviously, if it's too low, it doesn't make sense. And this is why I really love following Ricky on LinkedIn as well. He's just so transparent with his insights. As he said, and I completely agree, outbound, ultimately, you want your customers coming in through a lot of inbound. But to get that started, it takes some time. And in that time, outbound is what can get those customers into the door, right?
And there's other benefits too. In your early stage,
Hmm.
you need a lot of product feedback.
Hmm.
You've built a strong technical team that can, say, develop at 10 units a month.
Hmm.
They're developing at a certain pace.
Hmm.
But if you don't have the feedback from the markets
Hmm.
during that time as to what to develop,
Hmm.
you'll land up developing for the 2 or 3 customers that you do have,
Hmm.
the ones that were your early adopters.
Hmm.
And the risk there is those 2 or 3 customers aren't the market you're going after.
Hmm.
The market you're going after is the 99 people who have said no to you.
Hmm.
It's the general market out there. And so you can build yourself out of a product market fit. You can, so for research, it's useful from a marketing perspective to work out your messaging. It is useful. There's a whole lot of ancillary benefits in the early days
Hmm.
where outbound is worthwhile.
Hmm.
And I'll also just add as a caveat to my previous statement, there's different channels in outbound and those have different reach,
Hmm.
different, different metrics to them. And you can email, for example,
Hmm.
you can be far more economical,
Hmm.
might be less effective in certain cases. So there's things to look at, like your total addressable market. There's just so many things that you look at to determine it, but you don't only have to call.
Hmm.
We do know there's email, there's LinkedIn, and there's other channels too.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more with you, Ricky. And yeah, completely agree. So, Ricky, let's get to the meat and potatoes of things, how to build this high performing team. Before a business, let's say they meet the criteria, they have a high enough ACV to use
Yeah.
outbound as a channel. What is the first thing that they should do in terms of what groundwork should they lay before they actually get into the hiring side of things?
It is the hardest department to build,
Hmm.
right? And the challenge here is you need a layer of strategy,
Hmm.
you need a layer of management, and you need a layer of execution for
Hmm.
your outbound to work well. When you don't have all three, you will always succumb to where your shortfall is.
Hmm.
So, when building this team, where do you start? A lot of people get this wrong. They start with the execution. So, the
Hmm.
founder hires an SDR,
Hmm.
but now you're lacking the management.
Hmm.
It will be a time drain on the founder, and you're lacking the strategy, and it fails.
Hmm.
So you really need to start at the top when it comes to business development. You need to start with your leadership. If you have leadership in place, now there's another challenge. So you've got a senior sales leader. Your BDR or your SDR, your outbound team needs management. You can, SDR or BDR team can take at least 25, 50% of a manager's time. So even your head of sales, if they've got to build their account executive team and their partnership channel, maybe they're looking after customer success at the same time, it can be a real drain to build a BDR team because it's call coaching. There's, really working on nuanced messaging and list building. It's very hands-on. So you need a layer of management. So now you need your BDR manager, which can be an individual contributor if you really need to. It can be a player coach. But that's where I would start.
Okay.
You need someone who knows how to do the job. But there's a big catch here. This is where everyone gets stuck. If somebody knows how to be an outbound BDR and they're good at it, the likelihood is they don't want to do it anymore. They want to become an account executive. So now you've got this real weird thing where you've got someone who's capable of doing the job, but they don't want to do it well. I mean, they don't want to do it long. So you're like, oh, look, just do it for 6 months. And after 6 months, we would have built enough pipeline for you to then start closing the deals. You'll become the account executive and we'll hire an SDR to support you. But if that doesn't happen in 6 months, and it looks like it's going to be 9 months or 12 months or 13 months, that person leaves. And now you're left back at square one, 6 months down the line, no better off. But building these teams is really challenging in the early stages.
Got it.
Once you've got a bit of momentum and you've got 4 people, 5 people in a department, that's when it really becomes a little bit smoother.
Got it. So would you say the strategy, the groundwork for all this has to be laid down super clearly by the management, by the founder before you get the ball rolling on this?
Here's this. When you build a product, who the product is built for is not a decision that your most junior hire gets to make. That's a strategic decision right from the top. So list building and who you target is not the SDR's decision. You need to have a strategy around who your ideal client profile is. Often, founders don't. They're like, everyone can use this product. I'm like, well, that's useless. Maybe that's fine. We can test a whole lot of different industries. We can test different verticals. But that's now a strategic research piece, not a business development piece. So you have to know who you're calling or who you're outreaching to. Then the messaging. Does the SDR, the most junior person joining your team, get to determine the value proposition, the messaging used to take this product to market? Absolutely not. That comes from the top. That's an important strategic decision. So that has to be in place for them to be successful too.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't know your ideal client profile, you don't know the right personas, you don't know the right messaging that works, your SDR will not figure it out. Unless you have the strategic leadership and the management in place, you will burn out of this one. It won't work for you. So you need who you're calling, you're targeting. You need what you're saying, your messaging. And then when it comes to the actual tooling and the channels, again, there's a lot of strategy that goes into getting that right. Now, some SDRs, if they have the experience, might be able to do that piece. Very often, this is an important piece of you starting to build out your sales and revenue operations. And I don't think it should be the decision for the SDR either. So in general, you need a lot in place for an SDR to be successful. And those pieces don't come from your SDR.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of companies get this wrong when they try to get into sales. They just make a sales hire and think that this fixes all their problems, but they actually have deeper structural issues which need to be fixed first. And you just can't throw sales at it's a completely different problem which you need to solve first before even trying this out. I completely agree with you, Ricky. So great, Ricky.
So
go
my
ahead.
recommendations there, just if we were to get practical.
Yeah.
Like, depending on who's listening to this podcast, like if you're a founder without sales leadership, get a fractional head of sales. Get someone with experience who's done it before. Instead of paying them the $300,000 a year because you can't afford them, give them the 35, 50 grand for a year to be part-time or fractional in helping you build what you need. You will get the best outcomes from something like that, best bang for your buck. They, in turn, too, can get a fractional head of business development to support hiring the BDR on the ground. Like
Hmm.
you've got to, but if you don't have that leadership in place, you're generally on a highway to nowhere.
A highway to nowhere. I like that one. And that's super actionable advice. Get a fractional head of sales. And that's your first step if you're just getting started with this process. Great. So, Ricky, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and the beauty of that as well is you can often find someone who solved the exact problem you have.
Hmm.
They've been at a company at your stage, even in your industry,
Hmm.
and taken a business from 1 million to 10 million, or from
Hmm.
10 to 20, or from 20 to 40,
Hmm.
whatever, wherever you might be. If you're 20 to 40, you're probably looking at a fractional chief revenue officer, not a, you already have a head of sales.
Hmm.
But fractional experienced skilled leadership at the moment
Hmm.
is, I think, the answer to a lot of these sales woes.
Got it. Um, Great. So let's say a company does address all these structural issues, they lay the groundwork, they do the right strategy, set the right processes. Then it actually comes to finding the right people for their sales team, right? And I know anytime you put out a post, you're up to your eyeballs in LinkedIn DMs and applications, and it's a
Yeah.
hard job to find the right candidate, right? So, what are the characteristics that you look out for when you're hiring for a sales role at Pointer?
It's such a tough one, right? Like we've just started doing BDR recruitment
Hmm.
because we've developed a little bit of expertise specifically in this for this one role.
Hmm.
And just so you know, when I say BDR, SDR,
Hmm.
kind of this, I'm
Hmm.
talking about the same thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like people who do outbound
Hmm.
or cold calling, or even if they're doing a little bit of inbound.
Hmm.
So what we're looking for is a bias for action,
Hmm.
curiosity, IQ. Like those are some key elements that we really want. Someone who's able to make themselves stand out from the crowd.
Hmm.
The challenge with this role is there's no historical profile of what the person needs to
Hmm.
look like. If you're hiring a VP of
Hmm.
sales, you need someone who's got 10 years of sales
Hmm.
experience or has done the XYZ in sales before.
Hmm.
The job offer that I put out this 2 days ago
Hmm.
was to someone who was a concreter.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like they had no sales experience.
Hmm.
They were a concreter, but let me tell you, like he's going to be amazing.
Hmm.
He's got all the attributes for it. So difficult to find. You need people that are brave,
Hmm.
people that are willing to work hard,
Hmm.
people that are structured in general. This is a tough one
Hmm.
because can get very task oriented,
Hmm.
and you need people who are very uh, able to handle a lot of tasks,
Hmm.
stay on top of their work. You need
Hmm.
fantastic communicators, um, and you need to find a motivation,
Hmm.
and that motivation can be different. We've got some people who just want to be a BDR. They
Hmm.
don't want to progress,
Hmm.
and we often like that.
Hmm.
We've got people who do want to develop deep expertise in sales,
Hmm.
and we love seeing that too.
Hmm.
But when I see people that are super hungry,
Hmm.
really keen to climb the ranks,
Hmm.
I actually find it quite off-putting.
How is it?
Yeah, this is again one of those catch-22s within sales,
Hmm.
because if they are super eager to
Hmm.
climb the ranks,
Hmm.
they are going to want to become an account executive
Hmm.
much sooner than they should, much
Hmm.
sooner than they might be ready to.
Hmm.
And you're going to get 6 months out of your SDR.
Hmm.
I don't want 6 months out of an SDR. That's a hell of a lot of work for 6 months worth of benefit.
Hmm.
I want a year at a minimum,
Hmm.
but probably a year and a half.
Hmm.
So can I find people that see a big picture,
Hmm.
that understand that what they earn this year
Hmm.
is irrelevant?
Hmm.
Because if they do a great job, if they learn everything they need to learn, and if they become experts in themselves,
Hmm.
whether it's at this company or the next,
Hmm.
in 5 years from now,
Hmm.
they'll be earning 5 times as much.
Hmm.
They could be. I want people who see and understand that investment in
Yeah.
themselves, as opposed to this just being a stepping stone.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that philosophy of really looking at an opportunity, not just in terms of a paycheck. Of course, you need money, no honey, as they say. But ultimately, it's a chance for you to 10x your skills, 10x the amount of money you can make in 3 years or 5 years down the line. And that's the way, if you look at it that way, it works out better for you, works out better for the company you're working for. And yeah, I completely agree once again. So, Ricky, in terms of the structure of the team, I know for Pointer,
Yeah.
you have like super specialists for every single role, including dedicated list builders, dedicated researchers, dedicated copywriters. Um, But for a company just looking to get into outbound sales, is this a feasible approach, or what? How would you recommend that they structure their sales team?
Oh, it's absolutely a feasible approach. Absolutely. Now, when you're hiring for a BDR, it's a tough gig, and we've just gone over. There's like weird, nuanced character traits that you want from a person.
Hmm.
But now, if you want them to also be like data analysts, be good at web scraping, be a highly I don't know a phenomenal copywriter,
Hmm.
you're looking for a unicorn.
Hmm.
Certainly not someone who's going to be taking junior roles
Hmm.
doing outbound calls. Like these are the founders, these are the CEOs. If you're looking for everybody attributes in the world.
Hmm.
On top of that, if you do find someone who has this very unique skill set
Hmm.
of being able to start conversations, why would you have them list building?
Hmm.
Like when there's plenty other people that are better than them at list building.
Hmm.
So you should, without a doubt, be separating out as much of that admin
Hmm.
from your outbound team
Hmm.
and putting it on specialists.
Got it.
If you can't hire your own specialist, you can say, hey, this is the list that I need.
Hmm.
This is exactly who I want to be talking to.
Hmm.
Put it on Upwork, put it
Hmm.
on Fiverr.
Hmm.
Find a consultant to do that fractionally and just buy the list from them.
Hmm.
But do not have your BDR or your SDR spending 2 hours a day,
Hmm.
which is the average,
Hmm.
list building.
Hmm.
What a waste of 25% of their time.
Yeah, yeah, that makes complete sense. Yeah, you want people to do what they're best equipped to do, not just get the job done overall. There are people better suited to different roles, and that's how you should be looking to hire. But Ricky, at a micro level, if what are the different roles you need to fill in your sales team, in the way you structure it to get started?
I mean, are you talking about a full cycle sales team or just within the outbound team?
Within the outbound team.
All right. So within the outbound team, you let's just look at the jobs to be done.
Hmm.
Right. You can put this all on one person, which would be a real tough job in a unicorn hire, or you
Hmm.
could break this out across specialists.
Hmm.
So you have to be able to set up the system, the
Hmm.
infrastructure, the tool set to do the job. You need someone quite technical.
Hmm.
You can use there's phenomenal tools out there like Apollo that give you like 90% of what you need to do just in one simple thing. But even then, within Apollo, there's settings that if you get wrong,
Hmm.
you will fail.
Hmm.
Literally, they get one little setting,
Hmm.
and the default's 200 emails a day. And if you don't drop that down to 50, you might fail.
Hmm.
Takes 2 seconds, but somebody has to know that. So you need a technical expert. And let's call this in general sales operations.
Hmm.
Could be IT, but there's different parts of the sales operations and making it efficient. You need someone who can build lists,
Hmm.
right? And the more sophisticated the lists get, the better.
Hmm.
And there's two different categories of lists. There's like, hey, I want to talk to CEOs of startups that have less than 10 people.
Hmm.
And then there's the sophisticated lists. I
Hmm.
want to talk to those same companies that have recently adopted a CRM, who had a head of sales who's now resigned, and had a co-worker who had two co-founders, one of whom had a previous job and was still working there
Hmm.
and has now just gone full-time in their startup. Like,
Hmm.
now it's a very targeted list, very specific.
Hmm.
And when you use those attributes, like, hey, founder, I know you've just taken the leap and gone all in on this startup. Let me ask you, like, now you can use that very specific trigger,
Hmm.
that activity that's just happened within your outreach. It's a more complex list.
Hmm.
So when we say list build, there's list build over here and there's list build over here.
Hmm.
But you need someone who can build a list.
Hmm.
You then need someone to make the calls. There's a bit of admin in between, loading lists,
Hmm.
implementing, deciding which tags to use,
Hmm.
all of that. You need someone who can make the calls, send the emails, or perform the activity on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Can be automated, can be manual, like in lots of different options there.
Hmm.
And then ideally, you need someone who can assess, is this working?
Hmm.
Maybe your SDR's good enough to know, is this working? But could be your targeting's off,
Hmm.
could be your messaging's off,
Hmm.
could be the actual message is being delivered incorrectly,
Hmm.
could be that your velocity and your volume's wrong.
Hmm.
There's so many things that could be off.
Hmm.
And you need to be able to identify that because outbound does not work first time.
Hmm.
It's an iterative process through to success. And there's like 15 different variables.
Hmm.
If you want to add them all together, that makes thousands of different potential combinations of issues.
Hmm.
and you need a bit of experience to be able to get you closer to the right answer quicker. So that's it for me. You need like someone to do the admin, someone to do the list build, someone to do the messaging. Although you can include that in your copy, in your testing, so you can iterate that through anyway, just based on numbers. Someone to do the activity and someone to assess.
That's super clear. And there's I've seen how you build trigger based personas at Pointer. And for people that don't know the level of detail that goes into finding the right prospect, there are about 6, 7, 8 levels to actually find the right persona. And I think, as Ricky has mentioned previously, once you find the right persona, the rest kind of becomes easy, right?
Right, I'll give you an example, one we're working on right now.
Hmm.
So we've just launched this new product. We're doing BDR recruitment. So companies are coming to us and saying, "Hey, Ricky, will you help find us a BDR?" We've got a bloody awesome offering, which is firstly, you don't pay us once off, you pay us monthly over the course of a year. So it's much easier on your bank accounts. And two, we'll train that BDR for a year after you hire them. So like we've got this amazing offer. But we thought, all right, who do we go sell to? Option one is get a list of every company, let's just say in Australia, every company in Australia that hires BDRs. Got a big list here. And this is what most companies do. We thought, nah, it's too hard to sell into. So we built a program. We're checking every company that hires BDRs. We're putting them in a column and we're counting how many BDRs are at that company. We then go back to that company a month later when that job is no longer being advertised. And we check how many BDRs are in that company. And if the number of BDRs hasn't changed, we consider they probably had a failed hire. They advertised for the role, probably got overwhelmed like we do with 2,000 bloody applications and couldn't find anyone that they were happy with. So now we will phone that company and say, "Hey, are you struggling to hire BDRs? We've got someone ready to go, perfect. And any gaps they have, we're going to help you train through over the next year." So because we've now got a targeted list with specific attributes and triggers, the selling becomes so much easier. So the list will make a bigger difference to our success than anything the person could say on the phone, than anything we're saying in the email, because we're contacting a person at the moment that they've just realized how bloody shit it is trying to hire BDRs.
Yeah, Ricky, that's honestly why I can't get enough of your content. You're just so transparent. That's such a great example. You don't gatekeep any of your knowledge, you put it out there. And yeah, I absolutely love that example. Good luck on this campaign and all the others you're working on. So, Ricky,
Thank you.
I've heard you say something else that for a sales rep, the company you pick will determine your success. If we were to turn this statement on its head, from the company's perspective, what should they be doing to set up their sales teams up for success?
Sure. So it's a tough one, right? Because the first thing that they need to do, it's a big ask. You've got to have a product people genuinely want. Like that's first and foremost. Like when you can have an average salesperson working at a company that's just got the perfect product market fit, and they'll sell like crazy. And you could have the best salesperson in the world trying to sell a product that nobody's really interested in, and ultimately they'll fail. So the right product. And so what that comes down to is being willing to and having a system within your business. This is business fundamentals. Sales isn't a bloody unicorn. Like you have to have a system in your business where you can iterate quickly, iterate your message quickly, iterate your product to find the market that's right for you, and or to build your product into that market where you're not perfectly right. That's first and foremost. Then it's around, I think, just enabling sales teams with the support that they need, the tools that they need, the messaging that they need, but having that like alignment between sales, marketing, product, and operations is fundamental. Companies that have that in place and everyone's receptive, fighting on the same team for a win, they don't care where it comes from. Those companies iterate through to success as a whole, just the same way an outbound operation needs to iterate to success. This whole company is iterating its way through to success. That I think that's literally the most important thing. And if you have that in place, pretty much everything else goes with it. there are other little bits, the right data,
Hmm.
the right tools, the right coaching. Like these things matter a lot too.
Hmm.
But those are things that I think are less around, like with the right product,
Hmm.
even just with the phone
Hmm.
and Google,
Hmm.
you could probably make it a success.
Hmm.
So the rest certainly does help,
Hmm.
but to me isn't a game changer.
Hmm. Yeah, get the fundamentals of your business right. The sales will basically run itself. If your product sucks, don't expect sales to come and save you, right? That's just not
Exactly
how
that.
it works.
Exactly that.
Uh, Great. Ricky, so you've given us some great pointers, pun intended, over our chat about how to build this outbound sales team. You've helped numerous companies do it. You're doing it for your own company as well. What are some of the
Mhm.
biggest challenges or mistakes you've seen during this process?
I think the number one thing is not giving it enough time.
Hmm.
If you're not iterating through to success and you're not changing things every week or every month, time will do nothing, right? You're
Hmm.
just doing more of the same. But there's often a large misconception around how long things take to
Hmm.
work.
Hmm.
And I'll see something that I'll make it a change. I would, if I was putting that change in, put a hypothesis that let's say it's going to take 6 weeks to measure the outcomes. And but I see companies like trying something, it doesn't work. 2 weeks later, they're trying something else. 2 weeks later, they're trying something else. 1 month later, they're trying something else. Nothing's working,
Hmm.
but they don't get the insights that they need
Hmm.
to iterate to success. They're just randomly testing.
Hmm.
What are they throwing spaghetti against the wall,
Hmm.
seeing what will stick.
Hmm.
So uh, that's the biggest mistake for me. Impatience,
Hmm.
and that sometimes comes from inexperienced founders.
Hmm.
I mean, I've heard it come from VCs before. Who knows?
Hmm.
But it's almost always a recipe for failure.
Hmm. Not giving it enough time. Yeah, you need to find the fine line between strategy and execution. You need to get the strategy right, and then you need to give it enough time to execute it, to try to experiment before making a decision and changing things too quickly, because then you just don't have a good answer. You're just going off a whim and you never really know what's working, what's not. You're just not giving it enough time to get enough feedback, right?
Exactly that. And you got to know what stage of business you're at.
Hmm.
Like if you pre-product market fit, which most of the time they are, like what's considered a win?
Hmm.
Often they're just measuring SDRs on meetings booked.
Hmm.
But it's the feedback from the meeting they didn't book
Hmm.
going through to product,
Hmm.
to them implementing that feedback, to
Hmm.
building a better product that is ultimately going to get you your through all of your funding rounds and going to get you to success.
Hmm.
So there's so many ancillary benefits, but you got to know what stage you're at and what you're looking for
Hmm.
and build that all in. Um, and yeah, I think it's just that big picture, all of business approach, sales and marketing alignments. Like it's a lot of the fundamentals
Hmm.
that determine success or failure.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, as much as I'd love to think, hey, it's just all about skill of the person cold calling,
Hmm.
hell, if the success or failure of your business depends on the most junior hire
Hmm.
having a particularly rare skill set, like that's a risky business, right? We don't want that.
Yeah.
So luckily, that's not the case.
Yeah. Uh, Ricky, mate, I could listen to you talk all day. It's not just the insights you're dropping, but your phrasing and your delivery get me chuckling every time. Honestly, it's an absolute treat talking to you. And I know you're a super busy man, your calendar is packed. So, before we let you go, Ricky, I'd like to have a little segment called where we ask you a bunch of questions and you answer with the first thing that pops into your head. You ready?
All right.
Okay,
Yeah,
the
fine.
segment
Let's give it a go.
segment is called Hey Name Quick Question. So Ricky, your best performing subject line.
Company name / company name. Like
Emoji
ours / theirs. Yeah.
emojis in emails, yay or nay?
Nah.
First name in subject line, yay or nay?
Nah. Definitely not.
Most underrated outbound sales technique.
Most underrated outbound sales technique, just short messages asking directly to meet.
Hmm. 3 sales communities people need to follow.
Oh, that's a tough one. Um, like I think Rev Genius is fantastic. Hype Cycle is a good one. Their Slack community a little bit nicer than their WhatsApp,
Hmm.
but great. You can get some joy there. Sales Yacht Club, if you can get an invite. Sales Technicians, if you can get an invite. Pavilion is a classic, although typically not for people starting out their careers, but for executives, it's on point. It's up there, one of the best. Trying to think what else. I mean, that's enough, right?
Yeah, that's more than 3, Ricky. You got it covered.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to make it a little harder. 2 experts people need to follow on social media for the best sales insights.
One's going to be very controversial.
Hmm.
Pasha Irshad, and he's typically a marketer,
Okay.
but he's a lot more than a marketer. He's just a go-to-market professional.
Hmm.
Someone's been posting a little bit less than he used to, Eric Steves,
Okay.
but he has a way with thinking through problems that just blows my mind. Harris Scott. Harris Kenny.
Okay.
Pretty remarkable with what he's doing at the moment too. I mean, I could literally give you 1,000 names here, but there's enough.
And I would
hopefully just some names you haven't heard before.
Yeah, and I would definitely throw Ricky's name in there as well. And last one, Ricky, you said controversial, so that's what I'm going to ask you. One sales hot take that you have that most people would disagree with.
The channel doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're calling, doesn't matter if you're emailing, doesn't matter if you're using LinkedIn. If you have a good product and you're talking to people who have a problem, the channel shouldn't matter. You can make any of them work.
You heard it. You heard it here, folks. You have the right product. You have good messaging. You can make it work. Ricky, mate, thank you so much once again for the time. There are so many bombs in there. I can't wait to watch this back myself, to be honest. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us from Melbourne. And before we let you go, for people that want to stay in touch with you, get in touch with your business, where can they follow you and learn more about you, Ricky?
So the first is just reach out to me from my website, pointerstrategy.com.au. Otherwise, I'm always on LinkedIn. If I'm recruiting at the time, though, I might get 1,000 messages in a day. So feel free to look up my phone number and my email address. I know it's accurate in Apollo. So you can look it up there and give me a cold call or send me an email.
Okay. Guys, you heard it. You can flood Ricky's phone with calls. He's given the green signal for it. And definitely do yourself a favor and follow him on LinkedIn. As I said, his insights, super transparent, super insightful. And yeah, with his own charm and quirky delivery, it's an absolute must follow if you're into sales.
Thank you so much, mate.
Thank you so much once again, Ricky. And we'll let you go now. Again, so here we have another episode of the Sales Spotlight in the books with Ricky Pearl of Pointer. We'll be back with another episode shortly. Until then, catch you later. Peace.